in the highest levels of Western power. This is a truth that they live by. Listen to this story. According to Odinani Ndibo, our ancestors say that Alam Mo, the world of spirits, has a way of keeping itself safe from Alam Mado, the world of people. According to our Igbo ancestors, the world is divided into 4 world ages. And in the 3rd world age, Ugamu, human beings reached a level of mastery, knowledge, and connection to Alam Mo and all of the gifts it has to offer. Like their own world, they saw that Alam Mo was governed by law, by cause and effect, and ultimately ruled by balance. And if this balance was broken, what could be unleashed or placed in the wrong hands could at best enslave humanity, and at worst, wipe it from the face of the earth. We're currently in the 4th world age, Ugazi, an age where all human knowledge is directed towards confusion, destruction, manipulation, and corruption. Human ancestors in Ugamu saw what would become of the human race in Ugazi, and so they chose to die with the majority of their knowledge, vowing not to pass their full knowledge to the corrupted people to come after them. Because if their terrifying power and connection to Alam Mo was placed in the wrong hands, in the hands of people today, you and I are both in trouble. By 1968, the European empires that had subjugated the world had been destroyed. In the rubble of World War II, only the United States and the Soviet Union stood as the 2 powers with the capacity to rebuild and inherit these empires and stand alone in controlling, subjugating the planet. This was the height of the Cold War, and on both sides, governments and scientists had dedicated their full attention, energy, and resources towards developing the capacity to not only destroy their rival, but if need be, destroy the world itself. No option was off the table. In that year, the United States had confirmed that the Soviet Union had taken this pursuit beyond what a laboratory can offer. 1968 was the year the US had confirmed the Soviet Union's dedication and full focus into what it called paranormal research for the sake of making war. It had now been confirmed that the research of Semyon and his wife Valentina Krillian used the technique of high-frequency electromagnetic photographing to confirm the fact that certain people had a bluish-greenish aura around them that could not be seen by the naked eye. In this research, the Soviets and the US spies that were observing had penetrated the barrier of the once protected world of the unseen. The Americans labeled this mysterious auric substance as bioplasma, dubbing that the Soviets were 20 years ahead of them in the research of bioplasma through the help of yogis and ancient texts. The United States dedicated its own resources to harnessing the power of bioplasma in an initiative known as the Stargate Project. To execute this, the United States put together UCLA, the Southwest Hypnosis Research Center, and the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research to begin the pursuit of what it labeled psychic spies, astral spies capable of using astral projection to reach anywhere in the world and gather intelligence undetected, giving the United States government a dominant hold and access to a level of reality that had been sealed away for thousands of years. And pay attention to that, the fact that the astral world, the world of the spirit, had been locked away by the ancients. Because what ends up happening next in the story blew my mind. Something that gave me chills when I first read the documents on the Stargate Project. Listen close. The first successful US military astral projection project was done by a woman by the name of Beverly Chalker, under the watch of researcher Edward Pullman. In this experiment, Beverly was able to travel from a location in Dallas all the way to a location in New Jersey. She reported seeing a man sleeping on a bed with a light on. She also gave descriptions of the man himself. She described the man's pajamas and the decor in the room. Now, this particular project was made public, as well as the second successful attempt, which was a young girl who was able to use astral projection to read a 5-digit number hidden on a high shelf in another room while she was asleep, then wake up and relay the number to researchers. The US government continued leaking the success of these projects to the public, which spurred a trend of people trying to astral project or experiment on themselves. By the early 70s, there were books and audio tapes available for anybody who wanted to learn how to do astral projection. On the government end, they had successfully created psychic spies who were able to penetrate hidden rooms and create maps, describe the layouts of hidden places, detailed papers, documents, in locations that were previously outside of the government's reach. But even with this success, things quickly grew dangerous. And in fact, what's going to happen next is the reason you don't hear much about this division of the US government spy project anymore. A woman in Berkeley, California began warning the public of the dangers of astral projection, about her own trip leaving her body and then struggling to get back in. She pleaded with the public to realize how dangerous it is and hoped there would be a halt in the trend and ongoing research in the project. People who were projecting into the astral realm were observed with having incredibly high body temperatures and then wake up screaming in horror. As if all at once, a wave of failed experiments and trips began to rack the nation. After studying in India, a man by the name of Robert Antosezesky tried his hand in the practice. Now, his yogis had warned him not to do it. And in fact, these were the same yogis that the Russians were consulting in order for them to do their own experimenting. Around this time, the Russians and the Americans had begun to ask themselves a question. Can these astral spies become astral assassins? Can you use astral space or astral travel to move from one location to another, kill a person, and then return to your body? Practitioners of this time began to send out warnings saying that they feel the presence of something menacing creeping into the astral space. Both the US and the Russians had increased their security, and with that being done, they went all in the creation of astral assassins. Around this time, and in the astral space, Robert reported seeing a beautiful woman, a beautiful foreign-looking woman, as he described. Now, Robert was enamored and had reported that the woman was beckoning him, as if she wanted him to follow her somewhere that he wasn't aware of. She wasn't human, and when he woke up, he was obsessed. He told his roommate that he's going to enter the astral space again, and that the roommate should not open the door or bother him until he himself was ready to speak. So for another time, Robert entered the position that his yogis had taught him. He entered the astral space. An hour passed, and then another, until several hours later, his roommate had to burst in the door to see what was going on. Robert was sitting in the same position, and when his roommate went to touch him, he realized that Robert was dead. There were no signs of ill health. Robert was a vegetarian, and all of his organs were in great condition. Doctors had no answer for the cause of death. Experts from India reported that he refused to return to his body. A wave of deaths related to astral projection experiments began to reach the news. Realizing the Americans were now experiencing what they were experiencing, the Russians wrote to the Americans that the astral space is to be used for good. And this was confirmed when researchers found an old Kemetic script dating back to 1250, which stated that in the astral space, there is a spirit one will encounter, a woman who the people of Kemet had named Amut. Amut was a great spirit and protector. She was a shapeshifter, often appearing as a beautiful woman to those who do not belong in the space, but ultimately revealing her form as the destroyer of souls. The government went quiet about its research in astral projection. Soon after, the media went quiet with them. Those who practiced on their own gradually went silent. Those who did not go silent, such as Charles Manson, Herbert Mullen, who killed 13 people, and the Son of Sam serial killer, David Berkowitz, ushered in the death of several people. Prominent professors who had engaged in the study of astral projection, such as Eugene Bernard of UCLA, disappeared from the public eye. And it was speculated that Dr. Pullman, the first person to successfully perform it in a US government-controlled setting on his own subject, may have used it on Jack Ruby, a close business partner of his. And Jack Ruby would go on to assassinate Lee Harvey Oswald, the killer of John F. Kennedy. So before I start, I want to announce that we are officially starting.